Hi there. Let's just talk for a couple of minutes about what it means to have a customer-centric business strategy or even a customer-centric approach to us doing our work and interacting with our customers. So let's have a look at that. So first of all, let's consider what the background might be then to a customer-centric approach. And firstly, I'd like to say that it is all research-backed. That is, over the last particularly 15 to 20 years, there's been a lot of research done to understand what customer-centric business strategies are, as opposed to things that bolt onto an organization such as customer relationship management or customer experience management, something along those lines. It's really about having a strategy and a business approach which is customer-centric. And these resources here, all academic, research-based. The difference, not academic, is the one from Forrester, but it's still research-based. And these organisations and these academics have studied the customer-centric approach and figured out what makes it work and what doesn't. So let's consider that what leads up to being customer-centric is this approach, and figure out, well, how do we get to where we are? And this is something I find quite interesting, and that is, when we first started out in business, organisations were customer-centric. Sure, they might have had a product or a service or some produce that they produced that then they needed to share or sell on to their customers or barter with their customers. The key principles, though, were all about relationships, trusting relationships, and a perception of what the fair value exchange was. So if I offered a product to you or some produce to you, we exchanged sometimes not monetary, but sometimes the value. And in that value exchange, it's what we perceived to be a fair exchange. That fair exchange then gives us what the context is for that value of that transaction. Value perceived by both of those entities. But things changed. As businesses went on, that's the way it always was. Trading, merchants, and businesses throughout time until we got to the Industrial Revolution. And things changed in the Industrial Revolution because organisations then typically produced more product than what they could move through their existing networks. So sales and marketing was invented, as we know it, wasn't invented in that period of time. This is in the late 1700s, early 1800s. And that's when sales and marketing really began to take place. And that's when we started to, as businesses and organisations, do things to customers rather than with our customers and look for that two-way value exchange. So we've spent a couple of hundred years of doing things to our customers, and that's brought about the situation that we're in now. And what we need to do is go back to that original approach of interacting with customers and looking for a value exchange which is of two-way value. And there's 5 key things that changed for customers on the way through. The first one is, let me move that so you can see what it says. The first one is that people have become sales resistant. That is, we're resistant to sales approaches. During the last century, we really got sick of this pitching to us constantly, trying to convince us of things, to the point where we're totally resistant to it. And one of the things that also changed through that period of time was that we've now have this information symmetry. Previously, before the internet and the amount of information that's on there, we would rely on sales and service people and what the organisation told us about their products and services to figure out whether the product or service was right for us. But today we have information symmetry. That is, the information is shared. We can find out far more about products and services on the internet and through the reviews of others, other customers like us, that then we can test if what we're looking for is that experience or that product or that service. So that information symmetry has also led then to customers really wanting to do it for themselves, serve themselves, do the research themselves, rather than rely on the organisations to produce that research or that understanding themselves. Customers want to do it themselves. This also then has led to a raising of expectations. Some organisations are really getting this customer stuff done well, and that's lifted customers' expectations in what they're looking for from the organisations in terms of the services or the process it provides or the amount of effort that I have to put in to receive those products or services. The other key thing that's changed is that we've moved into an experience economy. This is an economy where people are no longer buying things and getting value from the sale of something, the consumerism. They're also getting value now, more so from the experience that comes from that. And we're investing a lot more into the experiences we have rather than the transactions or the consuming of virtual products. So what we're looking for is these 5 things have changed customers' behaviour, and therefore organisations need to change. And as they change, they need to adopt a customer-centric business approach. And this is a model that can work in this context. So in the first area, we're looking at how we create an understanding of our customer groups. These are the different customer groups that we have. Who are these, not the segments, but the different groups, because the customers are making decisions based on what they value and how their values resonate and exchange with the organisation. We then think about how do we understand two-way value. So there's value that the organisation gets and there's value that the customer gets. And we need to balance that out so that we've got this, so that what the organisation is trying to achieve is balanced with what the customers also achieve, so that it doesn't cost us too much to serve the customers. We're achieving a balance between those two things. And the third element in this phase 1 is then for the organisation to understand what is it we're trying to achieve? What is the outcome that we want through interacting and working with these customers? That then plays into that two-way value exchange to make sure that we can keep that on balance with our customers. That level of thinking brings about customer-centric approaches to the organisation. It also then moves us into the second phase. And this is where we try to communicate with these customers and explain what they value, but also then to be able to communicate in why they should be interacting with us and how, and what the value is that they get from interacting with us. And the communication should be occurring at those two levels. From that, we then figure out how we deliver on the intent that we have for these customer groups based on our understanding of that value and how we're constantly testing it, how we're communicating that value, and then we go to deliver it. And this is where all the work takes place typically. Not that there isn't work in thinking through all this stuff through. Most organisations, though, however, operate like this. They focus on the doing. Let's improve customer experience. Why? Well, because we should. Now let's fix that process. Why is that? And it doesn't actually give us a context of which to operate within, other than the strategy of the organisation, which is often driven by a financial plan. So we try and hook things back into the financial plan, or we can work on the alignment of these marketing messages. Pardon me. And we've got to get those aligned then with the intent that we had and with the value proposition that we offered. But quite often in our organisations, we have these functional silos. Those functional silos do their own thing, and that dilutes the value that the organisation delivers. So what we need is to make sure that across this system, we are keeping a consistent flow. And this is a customer-centric approach to your business. If you're operating now in a context where you're doing all this stuff, but there's no common understanding across the organisation of the understanding of the customer groups, what your understanding of value is, or even the intent, and how you plan on communicating that, you'll have wasted effort and value through the whole system. Having a customer-centric approach means that you can figure out what value you deliver for customers and how you can then do that on purpose. I hope this has been of value, and thanks for watching.